Stay where you are. It was a good idea at the time. Okay. Oh, we got a couple more people coming.
That's Pat. I don't know if she's going to do it.
I don't know.
I think that's a committee meeting over there.
That's a committee meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the hour has come, and it's 10 o'clock, and welcome to this amazing, most beautiful sanctuary in the world. Thank you to the Grange. Thank you to Dave Wheel for finding it for us. It is great to have you here today. I think we are all known to one another, but I want to welcome everyone, and I'm glad you're here. As is customary in our faith, we will begin our service with the lighting of a flame in an open chalice. A chalice is a symbol, and symbols have a number of different meanings, but one meaning I really like for the flaming chalice is that the chalice is like our physical bodies, and the flame is like consciousness and the spirit of life within us. So I'm going to light our flame today.
Where did this come from, this chalice? Is this your personal one?
This chalice is from Fresno, California.
Oh, okay.
There was a metal worker in the congregation.
Nice. Want me to hold my
Easier
hand there?
said than done.
Want me to hold my hand over? So I'm sorry, I'm gonna step in front of the camera.
That's all right.
So that the wind doesn't.
I think we got it.
Team effort.
So, with Chris's help, thank you, I can say, rise up, O flame, by your light glowing, show to us beauty, wisdom, and joy. Well, our service today, simplified service, is really about the great resource our hymns and our readings bring to us. And they're compiled in our hymn book, Singing the Living Tradition. And that is kind of a bell for us. We're part of a living tradition. And we have a song that says in one of the verses, a freedom that reveres the past, but trusts the dawning future more. So part of that living tradition, we revere the past, but we know where we come from, and we head into the future. So we aren't looking back, we're looking forward. In our service today, we're going to engage in a process of thinking about our hymns, exploring them, and then we're thinking about our sources, where we come from, where we draw our spiritual nourishment from. A thing that's unique about us Unitarian Universalists is that we don't have one single approach. There's multiple pathways in our sources. And our hymns and all our readings tie into those sources. They come from somewhere. Now, here's a brief reminder. And the reminder is that we're a free and open religious way. We make our choices and we're responsible for the choices that we make. And some of our sources speak to us more strongly as individuals than others of our sources. And that is as it should be. So if you say, that source doesn't work for me, you are very welcome here. They don't have to. But you'll find something in here that does. There's no one right way. So what feeds my spirit? That's a question I ask. And what inspires me and keeps me growing as I work to embody love and justice? What encourages me and reassures me when I make my inevitable mistakes? So I can say, oh man, wish I hadn't done that. But then I can turn in another direction and move on. And so what sources me as I do that? And those questions I find helpful, and you might find helpful too. We have great freedom as we respond to the questions, and other people do too. And that's a challenge for us Unitarian Universalists, because though we have a lot that we share in common, our spiritual paths are different. So just comparing this to music, I can say, some of us like classical music. In fact, maybe most of us. And some of us like a little country western thrown in too. And for other people, that may be difficult when I start singing my cowboy songs. But we make room for one another, and we say, oh my goodness, you feed your spirit differently than I do. But the question is, what moves us toward being open-hearted and loving and just? And another difficulty, everything we do has shadow to it. Nothing that we do is perfect. Our hymn book and our hymns come from somewhere. And that's the reality of every piece of work we human beings do. We come from somewhere. This does not mean that our songs and our readings are not wonderful and true. They are. But they're just one manifestation of wonder and truth. And another thing about us Unitarian Universalists is that we have our hymn book, but we grow and change. Since our hymn book was published in 1993, we've had several other additional songbooks made because Revelation is not sealed. It keeps coming. We turn toward the future and try to look beyond where we are. So are you with me here? This is a lot of words, but what I'm saying is we come from somewhere, and it isn't the only place human beings come from. And we need to be open to that, but we need to celebrate who we are too and say, yeah, we can come to the party. And as I think about this, I think about our struggle with the dominance of white European culture in the United States. Gosh, there's a bunch great about that. There's a bunch of stuff that's come out of Northern Europe and the Enlightenment that we love, but man, there's shadow to the Enlightenment and to the scientific method. It ain't that the method is wrong, but the application, there's always going to be shadow in the application of the scientific method. Need I mention plastics? Need I mention the internet? There's shadow to all of our technology. So, understanding a little about the wonder and complexity of our lives and our hymns, knowing that our hymn book is not the final word on everything, but it's still a good word, I invite us now to begin our exploration by focusing on one of the sources of inspiration for us UUs, and that source is we draw our inspiration and wisdom from the world's religions that inspire us in our ethical and spiritual life. And I want to begin there because I got an idea here, and I'll share it with you. I begin with that source because we Unitarian Universalists are called to think and choose for ourselves. Many people in more dogmatic ways of faith call us heretics. And we have not resisted that title. We've embraced it. Y'all know where the roots of the word heretic from the Greek? Let me tell you. It comes from the Greek word heretikos, which means able to choose. Able to choose. We are able to choose, and of course we're responsible for our choices. Well, that grew out of the Enlightenment, but years before, a couple thousand years before the Enlightenment, in Asia, there was the Buddha. And in his farewell address, he said, "Be ye lamps unto yourselves. Be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourself as to the only lamp." And go figure, we have a hymn with that very lyric. I invite you now to turn to hymn 184, "Be ye lamps unto yourselves." Be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourself as to the only lamp. And now, am I up? Let me see.
Should have power.
Looks like it. Here it comes. We'll just listen to it this time. Invite us to sing along with this. And this is a meditative hymn. If you want to just sing it softly, that's fine. We'll do it again. Here it comes.
Oh,
There is no interruption. Just go. Yes.
Oh, I was just wondering, the melodies from the Sarum Antiphonal, I don't know anything about that, do you?
I don't either.
Okay.
But thank you. That reminds me. There is a little book called Between the Lines that I referred to a little later here, but I didn't do it for this hymn.
Oh, sorry.
But I'll look it up and I'll tell you. But you can also. We've talked about the shadow of the internet. The great thing about the internet is that, come on in. Great thing about the internet is you can look that up and find out. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good morning.
Morning.
Howdy, howdy. Glad you're here.
Brian,
Yeah,
I wanted to rest the scriptures with you just on that last line.
yeah.
As to the only hold to the truth within, as to the only lamp, as if it were the only lamp.
Yes,
Wow, this is radical.
Yeah.
yes it is.
It's all here.
Yes it is.
But how to get there?
Yes
I
it
gotta
is.
have
It
some
is.
input.
If you think it's radical, it's because it is. And
Unless you're wrong.
and we are from time to time. We are. And then what do?
Think about it. Oh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
change your mind.
Yeah, you might say. So, welcome. Come on in. There's a place right here, and there's one over there too. Welcome. I'm full of bad stories, and so when I went to college, there was a guy named Jimmy Kaufman who was playing for the college football team, and he was deep back on kickoff, and he received the kickoff in the end zone, and he decided to run it out. So he ran it out, and then there was a whole bunch of guys who were running toward it. So he ran back to the end zone, and he knelt down, thinking, okay, that'll be a touchback, and then we'll get the wrong. That was a safety. He just scored 2 points for the other team. So they interviewed him after the game, and they said, what were you thinking? And he said, well, I was thinking that there was a lot of guys chasing me, so I went back there and I thought I'd be safe. And then just as I knelt down, I said to myself, I said, Jimmy, I wish you hadn't done what you just done. So that is one of the best stories about repentance that I know. Nobody can make choices for us except ourselves, and we're responsible, and sometimes we err. But we are responsible, and we have a direct experience of life that is ours. And that's what our next hymn is about. We draw wisdom from the world's religions. We also draw wisdom from our own direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures. And that mystery renews our spirits and opens us to the forces which create and uphold life. So, I want to invite you now to take a breath and think about what moves your spirit and softens your heart and opens you up to the forces that create and uphold life. What are some experiences or some things that just open you up?
Being in nature.
Absolutely. Yeah. That resonates for all of us. And Nancy, you were going to say.
I just returned 3 weeks ago from 3 weeks in southern Africa, where I had there was a pride of 9 lions who walked past our vehicle close enough to touch them.
Yeah.
That was a moment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We did not touch them though, because that would have been a really bad idea.
No, yeah. You could have lost your hand
Yeah.
or more. Your life. What else? What other things?
I think the wonder of children
Yeah.
when they're learning and growing and like doing something new
Yeah.
from like teeny tiny babies up. That's
Yeah. I was there at the birth of my daughter, my first daughter. I was overwhelmed with life out of life.
Yeah.
And my previous spouse, my then wife, was there, and I said, "My gosh, what a mystical experience!" And she said, "Is that what that was?" Didn't feel
Yeah.
like that so much for me.
Yeah.
It was a labor.
Yeah.
But other things that move us, our own direct experience that just open us up.
Gratitude,
Yeah.
humility.
Uh-huh.
I think for me it's music, like especially classical music.
Yeah.
Pets.
I-
Pets.
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 Yeah.
Dogs, cats.
Dogs, cats. Yeah. Well, so we begin as heretics, and we're responsible for our choices. We get to choose, and we have our direct experience, and then we can pay attention to what moves us. And what moves us, in the hymn we're going to sing, is referred to as it. It sounds along the ages, soul answering to soul. It kindles on the pages of every Bible scroll. The psalmist heard and sang it. From martyr lips it broke, and prophet tongues outrang it, till sleeping nations woke. And speaking of prophets, here comes my brother Jack. Come on in, Jack.
There's a chair over here.
I thought it started at 10:30.
Well, it did. It didn't start till you got here, Jack. So, I invite you to turn to hymn 187. And speaking of living tradition, this hymn is a blast from our past. It puts us in our living tradition. The lyric was written by William Channing Gannett, 1840 to 1923, a Unitarian minister, an early supporter of women's suffrage, one of the earliest supporters of reparations for African American slaves. He was a guy. The tune, also from our history. This time I got the tune, Susan. The tune was written by the Bohemian Brethren in 1450. The Brethren were heretics who broke away from the Catholic Church and followed the teachings of Jan Hus, a radical Catholic priest in Bohemia, now Czechoslovakia. And he defied the church because at that time the priest was the only one who could take the sacrament and drink from the cup. And he said, no, everybody gets to do that because the love of God is for everybody. And then he had the notion that wealth should be shared and that we should live a simple life and that we should follow the Sermon on the Mount. Well, that was actually a radical thought, and not only did it get Jesus killed long before him, but it got him killed too. In 1415, the Catholic hierarchy had Jan Hus burned at the stake. So let's take a look at the lyrics. I've cited that first verse for you, 187. And just to make sure we know who we're singing about, and here is the thing. We come from different paths of life, and not all of us know where we haven't had the experience. We don't know where all this stuff comes from. So in the first verse, it talks about the psalmist. Who was the psalmist?
Piano, the organist.
The psalmist? Well, the organist certainly helps with the psalmist. Who wrote the Psalms? This is mythologically, of course, but who wrote the Psalms? King David wrote the Psalm. So that's what that refers to. In the second verse, it says, "It from Sinai's cliff, it echoes." What does that mean? What's Sinai's cliff? Mount Sinai. What happened there? 10 Commandments. That was an interaction between the Spirit of life and Moses, who was the leader of the people, who said, at this point, we need to make an agreement, a covenant among ourselves, and a covenant with the mystery of life, that we're going to live life in a certain way. We're not going to stop killing one another, and we're going to stop thieving, and as much as possible, we're going to stop lying to one another. So we built some structure. So it's amazing what it does in it. So from Sinai's cliff, it echoed. It breathed from Buddha's tree. What happened under Buddha's tree? Does anybody know what happened there?
Sound enlightenment.
Yeah.
That's where the enlightenment happened. Yeah. So this it, you cannot hold it. You can only open your hands and your heart and experience it when it comes. It breathes from a Buddhist tree. It charmed in Athens market. Who was in Athens market? Socrates. Who else? Plato. Yeah. The Greek philosophers. Different ways that spirit works among. It hallowed Galilee. Who was traipsing around in Galilee? Jesus. And, his sorry-ass disciples. That would be us in a metaphorical way, who's saying, oh yeah, that was a good idea. Maybe we should try it again. The hammer stroke of Luther. Who's that referred to?
Martin Luther.
Martin Luther. Why did he hammer up his 99 points?
Church door.
Yeah, he hammered it on the church door. And what was that about? Does anybody know?
And the critique of the church.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was about the corruption of the church. It moves us to protest corruption. The Pilgrim's Seaside Prayer. Who does that refer to? Plymouth Rock, the Mayflower Compact. Now we're right here in the middle of, ain't there some shadow with that? Our forebears, if we're white folks, came over here from Northern Europe for religious freedom for themselves, and then stopped religious freedom pretty much, and life for Native Americans and enslaved African Americans. So there's plenty of shadow in our past, and there's light. There's shadow and there's light. So the Pilgrim Seaside Prayer, the Oracles of Concord. Who are the Oracles of Concord? Yes, Emerson, Channing, Margaret Fuller, Dorothea Dix. We're tooting our own horn, our own horn here. Those are the Oracles of Concord. They're our direct Unitarian and Universalist forebears. So it is with all of us. And how do we know it's it? Well, the third verse says, it calls, and what happens?
Justice.
Lo, new justice. If it ain't moving us to justice and love, it's something else that's calling us, not it.
Was that the word in the end of verse 2?
What's that?
The one holy word declare.
Yes.
And the next one says justice. Is that the word?
That's it. The word is justice. The word is love. The word is justice. So, well, now that's a long introduction to this hymn, but let's see how it goes here. We'll listen to it once, and then we'll sing it. We may not get through all the sources here in an hour, but are y'all having fun?
Yes.
Okay.
Might need a part 2 of this one.
What's that?
We might need a part 2.
Part 2.
A
Yeah.
part 2 of this service.
Yeah. Here it comes.
Soul answering to soul.
Okay, confession, I'm a hymn junkie. I've got a bunch of favorite hymns, but this is one of them. God, I love this hymn. And true confession also, I'm a natural mystic. It's nature, yeah. And I'm a Unitarian Universalist mystic. I'm wanting that sound. I want it in me. And when it happens, I'm so grateful. So let's sing this now. Here it comes. It'll take a while for the machine to warm up.
It sounds along the ages, soul answering to soul. It kindles on the pages of every Bible scroll. The psalmist heard and sang it from water lips it rolled, and the prophet tongues outrang it till sleeping nations roll. From Zion as clears it echo, it breathed from Buddha's tree. It charmed in Athens market, it hallowed Galilee. The hammer stroke of Luther, the pilgrim seaside prayer, the oracles of Concord, one holy word declare. It calls and lo new justice, it speaks and lo new truth. In ever nobler stature than one exhausted youth. Forever on resounding and knowing not of time, our lost the cash the music of its eternal
Oh,
You sure did make something come alive for me. I mean, I would have just blah, 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 blah. The words on this never had a clue. If I've ever sang it before, I don't know.
thank you for that testimony, Sister Susan. Because this is the process.
Yeah.
This is the process. This stuff is here, but you got to crack it open. You got to look at it. You got to think about it. You got to go on the internet and find out where the tune came from. You got to read, and then it can come alive for us. It
Yeah.
can come alive for us. Our tradition can come alive for us. And our next source that I want to talk about is the words and deeds of prophetic women and men. Words and deeds which challenge us to confront the powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. We've had examples before us of people who have done this. And our next hymn we'll just sing through. It's pretty straightforward, and that's a good thing because we don't know much about the person who wrote the lyric. His name was Albert M.P. Dawson. He lived 1880 to 1963. We know a little more about this tune, though. It's from Giovanni Palestrina, 1525 to 1594, a Catholic choir master in Italy, who was a choir master to the Pope. But he lost his position for good reason. He got married. So let's turn to hymn number 107 now. And then here's a spoiler alert. This is about the brave of old. And after we sing the hymn, I'm going to invite you to, as it feels right to you, name somebody from the brave of old. Doesn't have to be famous. Somebody from the brave of old who moves you even today. Here it is, hymn
What do you mean by brave
107.
of old, though?
What's that?
I don't know what brave of old means.
The brave of old. Brave people who lived a long time ago, or maybe lived a short time ago, but they're dead now.
Okay, thank you.
The last line says, and being dead, live evermore. So that's who the brave of old are. Does that help?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Here it comes. I'll play the first verse and then go back and play the whole thing.
Now sing we all the brave of old, who would not sell themselves for gold, yet left us riches manifold. Alleluia.
Got that tune? Not too hard. Here it comes again, and we'll try to sing.
Now sing we all the brave of old, who would not sell themselves for gold, yet left us riches manifold. Alleluia. Of those who fought a goodly fight, for liberty, for truth and right, their patient love, their chiefest might. Alleluia. Who when no gleam did point away, pressed ever on by night, by day, and spite of pain did ever stay. Alleluia. Who long the world's old sorrows bore, and toiled and loved and suffered sore, and being dead live evermore. Alleluia.
The brave of old. Who comes up for you? Yes.
Okay, Ed Grothus.
Give us a word about Ed.
Ed Grothus, we lived 27 years in Los Alamos, New Mexico, a town that has its own muddled history. And Ed, even though he had worked at the laboratory where everybody worked, he was always critical of it. He was critical of injustice. Every October 31st, he would take a piece of paper with his own 95 theses and post them on the cathedral door in Santa Fe.
Oh.
One time, he, you may say this is not directed well, but and a lot of people thought he was crazy. I loved him. He took a can of vegetables and took the label off and made a label that said plutonium and sent it to Al Gore.
Oh.
This little protest. The FBI took about 5 minutes to get to his house. But he was just the gadfly of our town all the time for years and years and years. If something was gone wrong, Ed had a letter to paper. He was doing something. He had signs.
Thank you.
Sounds like a radical. Does sound like a
Okay,
radical.
say his name again.
Ed Grothus, Grothus.
Let's say it together. Ed Grothus.
Grothus.
One of the brave of old. All right. Somebody else.
Yeah, I've got some stuff coming up. I come from the Mormon tradition way back, and as we're talking about pilgrims and people, like we had family that first came to America from like England, Scotland, Ireland, and then quite a few that followed Joseph Smith and Brigham Young over with hand carts. It's going to bring some stuff up. And my family and my grandmother are very into genealogy, so getting the stories and getting the names and the birthdays and the death days and what did they do, and as I left that religion in my early 20s, I felt like I was rejecting a lot, right? And as I look back now and we sing these things, like something drove them, something in that spoke to them. And how important would that have had to be for them to leave everything behind, put all their belongings in a handcart? Most of them could not afford an oxen to pull it, so they were pulling their handcart with their children, walking thousands and thousands of miles looking for something more.
Yeah.
And so I try to think about what must that have been to drive them to that. And I'm terrible with names, so I can't remember their names. But there is one story my grandmother tells about a little boy who was about 3 or 4 walking across the plains, and most of the time he didn't have shoes. He was walking barefoot. And when they would get somewhere to camp, his job was to go get water from a creek and bring it back to camp. But it was so hot and his feet were so sore that he would go fill the bucket and then stand in the bucket. Like he would walk a little while and then stand in the bucket. And then as he was walking back, he would spill it so he could step in the water along the way. But I wish I could remember their names. I'm terrible at names. But that, whether or not I'm going to believe in their religion, they did. And it spoke to them and it called them to something. And it brought my family to where they are. And
Thank you.
so,
Thank you. Shadow and light.
Yeah.
Shadow and light. Many of us here are well acquainted with the shadow side of Mormonism. But I have known so many wonderful, kind, caring, honest Mormon people with integrity. So I say, I don't know how that works for them, but
I don't know how it works for them either.
I don't want to be Mormon, but something's working in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I was thinking of the whole westward movement of the United States, and I was thinking of Chief Joseph, a brave of old, who said, "I will fight no more forever." He fought the goodly fight. Hallelujah. But to save his people, what remained of them, I will fight no more forever. A couple more. Anybody? Yeah.
Jane Addams. She's always been in her own life. Jane Addams.
Tell us just briefly, because our intelligence is great, but our information isn't all the same. Does everybody know Jane Addams? No, not everybody.
Jane Addams was raised in Rockford, Illinois, and she went over to England and witnessed the movement in England for preventing relief from tenements. And so she came back to Chicago and started she came back to Chicago to start Whole House, which no longer functions, but and started the entire social work movement to provide assistance to people.
Thank you.
Or horrible circumstances.
I forgot. Thank you. And I forgot to say, we don't know that little boy's name. I'm just going back here just a second because I got to be complete on this. Don't know that little boy's name, but that little boy who carried water. So let's just repeat that. A brave of old. Little boy who carried water. little boy who carried water. Thank you. And now, Jane Addams.
Jane Addams.
Those are the brave vote. Yes.
I would lift up Warlis and Exerlina Jackson, who were natives of Natchez, Mississippi, who lived in Natchez, Mississippi back during the Civil Rights era. He was active in the NAACP. He got hired to do a job that had been for him like an all-white place. His car was bombed and he was killed in 1966. So she was left to carry on and raise the children. So Warlis and Exerlina Jackson.
So say those again loud.
Warlist.
First word.
Warlist.
I'm
Warlist?
sorry, I couldn't.
Warlist.
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 W-O-R-L-I-S-S.
It's spelled differently, but that's close enough.
Warless.
Warlist and Exerlina Jackson.
Exerlina Jackson. Warless and Exerlina Jackson. The brave of old. We come from somewhere, don't we?
Brian, can I also say the women in Iran that are being
Even now.
that have died fighting. So I can't remember her name. I'm so bad with names.
But the women in Iran.
The women in Iran.
The brave of old, who would not, give themselves for gold,
Yeah.
but left us riches manifold. Hallelujah. Yeah. Well, our next source is one that is challenging for us Unitarian Universalists because we know it so well. Unitarianism and Universalism both grew out of the Jewish and Christian line. And we know the shadow side of that line very, very well. But like all great faiths, along with their shadows, Judaism and Christianity bear tremendous light in the world. The heart of Judaism is where we start, and the heart of Judaism is love. The Shema, the central prayer of Judaism, is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. And you shall love the Lord," and I like to say the mystery of life instead, because that works better for me. "You shall love the mystery of life with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength." And in Deuteronomy, and then with Rabbi Hillel, who lived about 100 years before Jesus, and then with Jesus is added, "And you shall love your neighbor as yourself." "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the mystery of life is one, and you shall love that life, that mystery, with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself." That's the heart. That's out of our tradition, but that's the heart of all great religions. It's love and justice. So, there's nobody who embodies the shadow and light of Christianity and Judaism more than St. Paul. Paul the Apostle, whose shadow side we know very, very well, but he was actually a progressive for his day because he declared that the way of love and justice and compassion, which Jesus taught, that way was not limited to Jewish culture and tradition. Love and justice and compassion could be lived out even through paganism, even with Gentiles. Like all of us humans, though, he was still part of his time and surroundings, and he didn't do any favors to women or to people in bondage. He was a product of his time. He only got it so far. Our job, let's get it a little further than St. Paul, but let's not deny the light that was in him. Okay, now there is one famous scripture attributed to St. Paul. Well, he wrote it probably. And it's recited at almost every wedding. You know what that is? 1 Corinthians 13. "Though I speak with the tongue of men or of angels, if I have no love, I'm a sounding brass. I'm a tinkling cymbal." Man, that is true. That is so true. We're going to sing about that, and it's hymn 134, though I may speak of bravest fire.
34.
What's that?
34.
34. I said 134. Thank you. We need help.
Inflation.
There you go. That was
Though I may speak with bravest fire is based on 1 Corinthians 13, and the tune is actually an Old English melody. We come from somewhere. Our stuff, it's a lot of it's Northern European. It ain't the whole ball of wax. We need to make room for other stuff, but there's light in our tradition as well. So here it is, hymn 34, and here it comes.
Though I may speak with bravest fire, and have a gift to all its heart, and have a love, my words are vain, as sounding brass, and hopeless gain.
Okay, I wanted to play that for you so you get a feel for how the song goes. We'll go back and sing it through now, and then we'll wrap it up.
Though I may speak with bravest fire, and have a gift to all its heart, and have a love, my words are vain, as sounding brass, and hopeless gain. Though I may give all I possess, and striving soul my love profess, but not begin my love with thee, nor profess soon the strangely feel. Come, Spirit, come, our hearts control, our spirits come to be made whole. Let inward love thy every deed, by this we worship and are free.
Brian, where did you get the audio? Where is that? Who's singing?
The hymns that I got here are from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Oakland Choir. Well, thank you for being here today. Wow. I thought, hymn singing would scare folks away, but we got a full house. Thank you so much. I invite you now to turn to hymn 413. And I got to do my technological fix here because this song is on another disc.
Four 13.
413, go now in peace, it should say. Did I say 313 on the?
We're just skipping ahead because of time, right?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, that's true. True. Okay. As is our custom, we will extinguish the chalice and then we'll sing this hymn. But before we do, I want you to notice something about the way this hymn is written, the way the lyric appears, and I want you to think about the way we usually sing it. How does it appear? What does it say?
In the love of God.
Go now in peace, go now in peace, may the love of God surround you. Everywhere you may go. In every Unitarian Universalist church I have served, we sing, may the spirit of love surround you. May the spirit of love. But there is room for us if we use God language. So my benediction, as I blow out the candle here, we'll see how this goes, if I can get this off without burning my fingers.
Just blow down into it. Can you? It's gonna be way too hot.
It works. And so my words of benediction before we sing the hymn are this. Now for all of us who see God, may God go with us. May all of us who embrace life, for all of us who embrace life, may life return our affection. And for all of us who seek a right path, may a way be found and the courage to keep taking it step by step. Even when we have to say, oh, Jimmy, I wish I hadn't done what I just done. May we keep taking those steps along the path. And now we will sing our hymn. Here it comes.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in
Well,
Thank you.
thank you all for being here.
Thank you, brother.